Heat waves are hitting us like never before. Summer is barely here in the northern hemisphere, and we're already seeing people across the globe suffering under extreme heat. And now research is making clear just how deadly these disasters can be. So how is climate change turbocharging heat waves, and what can we do to protect ourselves now and in the future? I'm Adam, a climate scientist with a PhD from Oxford, sharing what you need to know about climate change. And I didn't want to be making this video right now. You see, I just hit 50,000 subscribers and I planned a special video to celebrate that I was all ready to film, and then this. But seriously, I am thrilled to have over 50,000 of you incredible climates in this community. Thank you all so much for being here. And that celebration video is still coming, and it's going to be a really good one, peering into the deep future of climate change. If you're not already, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Okay, but there's an important reason that I'm not making that video right now, and it's because heat waves have been devastating our world. And I really mean the world here. There's been devastating heat all over. Temperatures soaring above 50 degrees Celsius in Mecca, killing over 1,000 people who are making the Hajj pilgrimage. More than 4 out of every 5 US Americans sweltering under extreme heat, thanks to a weather phenomenon known as a heat dome. And then there's been the heat hitting Europe and Southern Asia and Eastern Asia. So in summary, an extreme amount of extreme heat. But as countless commenters delight in pointing out, we had heat waves before climate change too. And they're right, we did. But today's heat waves hit different. You see, by burning fossil fuels, we're pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and heating the planet. And surprise, surprise, heating the planet is making heat waves that used to be extremely rare more extreme, but less rare. But what might actually be a surprise is just how huge this effect can be. For example, scientists analysed the start of the North American heatwave and found that the extreme daytime temperatures were made about 35 times more likely because of climate change. The record-breaking nighttime temperatures, around 200 times more likely. In fact, researchers have found that every single heatwave happening these days is made hotter and more likely because we're heating the planet. So why? Why is extreme heat getting such extreme boosts from global warming? Well, the technical explanation is that changes in the average have supersized effects on extremes. But let me give you a less technical, more anecdotal explanation. If you've been watching this channel a while, you might recognize it, but cut me some slack. I needed to make this video in like 2 days. So I grew up in the UK, but now live in Germany. People in Germany are, on average, taller than people in the UK. And as someone with average height for an adult British human, I noticed this a lot when I moved here. I definitely saw a lot more people who were 6 foot tall, but I also noticed quite a few people who are 6'3", a height that would be pretty rare in the UK. What I really noticed though was the super tall people. You know, their height's so tall, I basically never see anyone that tall in the UK. But here, occasionally, I would see these people who I had previously thought of as impossibly tall. It's just the same with changes in temperature. Shifting the average temperature up has heat boosting effects on every heat wave. But by far the biggest impacts are on the most extremely tall, the most extremely hot events, which go from being incredibly rare, maybe even effectively impossible, to actually happening. And unlike all the tall people in Germany who, at their worst, give me a crick in my neck, all this heat can be deadly. While the carnage they cause is much harder to visualize than it is for floods or fires or droughts, heat waves are silent killers. Too much heat means that the body can't regulate its internal temperature and your organs literally get too hot to function. That means heat exhaustion and then eventually heat stroke. And recent research looking at Europe shows that in just 20 years, heat-related deaths have shot up by almost a third. This affects the most vulnerable among us. Think of little babies, you know, your elderly relatives, and people who already have health issues. But other people at high risk too. You see, the basics of protecting ourselves from heat waves aren't rocket science. It's stuff like staying hydrated and staying cool indoors. But how do you do that if you don't have decent housing or don't have housing at all? Or if you have to work outside to earn a living? So we have to do more to protect the most vulnerable people from extreme heat. This can mean better education so that people know what to do and what not to do when extreme heat hits. It can mean better infrastructure, whether that's better housing or short-term cooling centers. And it can mean better support networks, checking in on those vulnerable people in our communities. But the hotter we make the planet, the more severe heat waves we'll have more often, as we're already seeing today. But the flip side of that is that once we stop heating the planet, in other words, we stop burning fossil fuels and stop emitting CO2, we stop heat waves getting worse. So we should probably do that as soon as possible. And if you need another reason to stop heating the planet, here's what could happen to the Amazon rainforest if we don't get our acts together. Okay, until next time, bye.